And thank you everyone for joining us again today. We hope that you had a great day yesterday if you were here. It's our first ever ESL Library virtual conference. We were just blown away by everything yesterday. We were so happy how it went and the speakers were awesome. If you were at the conference yesterday, then you've already met us, but some of you were teaching and probably weren't here. So we're just going to do a quick intro again. Just to let you know, this is an informal kickoff to today's conference, and I'm just here with a few representatives from the publishing team before the events kick off. So today we'd love for you to take a moment to introduce yourself in the chat. And just for fun, please take our little poll. I think Tanya is putting that up for us. It's a simple question today, Saturday morning. Which do you prefer, coffee or tea? All right, so while you're introducing yourself in the chat and answering our poll question, I'll just start with some brief introductions. So I'm Tara, the VP of Publishing, and I'm based in Ontario. I've been with the company for about 15 years. Personally, I prefer coffee, but I do drink peppermint tea with my teenage daughter almost every evening as we unwind from our day. It's just a little check-in ritual that we have, and it definitely contributes to our social emotional health. I'm here with Tanya, our Director of Language Development, who is based in BC. Tanya has been our head editor at ESL Library for a decade now. Like I said yesterday, I've been lucky enough to call Tanya a friend and a colleague for even longer than ESL Library has been around. So we used to teach English together in Vancouver. Tanya is our grammar and usage expert, and she is the author of some of the most popular sections on ESL Library. So grammar practice worksheets, fun grammar lessons, pronunciation lessons, grammar usage resources. Quick question, Tanya, is it coffee or tea for you?
I like both, but I think coffee is the most important to start my day.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do every day. We need our coffee. We also have Anne, our US editor, who is based in Virginia. Anne edits and writes materials for us, including our English with the Washington Post section, which she oversees. And this is one of our newest and most popular sections on the site. We've been getting a lot of requests and feedback about it over the weekend. So please continue to share your support and requests. We're going to continue with that section throughout next year. Anne also teaches adult ed and CASIS. Now, Anne, I know Tanya and I often ask each other to wait a second. I got to go fill up my coffee, but I'm not exactly sure which you prefer. Is it coffee or tea?
Oh, I'm definitely a coffee drinker. Big fan of coffee.
Okay, awesome. So Tanya, Anne, and I are available to answer questions and take requests, not just at the conference, but every day while we're working with the ESL Library. You can get a hold of us. So we're going to be here representing the publishing team throughout the weekend. We're, going in and out of the tables between the sessions, so definitely reach out to us. You can ask us about anything content related. We're the ones to ask about that. So let's just start by talking about some things that we do at work for our own social emotional health, besides drinking coffee. So Tanya, why don't you share something that you do for your social emotional health at work?
Well, I really love nature. I find it so inspiring and just really important for physical health and mental health. So every day after work, I try to take a walk. I'm lucky that I have a river behind my house, so I walk along the river, and rain or shine. And there's actually this interesting hashtag to follow on Twitter if you're interested. An editing group that I belong to, there's an editor named Tanya Gold, and she started this group called Stetwalk. So hashtag Stetwalk, STETWALK. Stet is an editing term that means let it stand. And so she started this just to remind editors to take a break. And, it's so important for our health. Take a break, get outside, clear your head. So we follow each other's pictures. We take pictures of some beautiful scenery or something that we saw on our walk. And it's just nice. It's motivating. And yeah, it's fun to look through everyone's pictures. So maybe we need to do that for educators too, Ed Walk or something.
Yeah, I love looking at those pictures. Tanya also has this hidden talent of taking amazing pictures, especially of bears. I would tell her, bring your bear right.
Yeah, I see a lot of bears around here.
Okay, and how about you? What do you do for your social emotional health at work?
Well, I am a big proponent of mindfulness, and I actually use it in my classroom a lot. And when I'm feeling stressed or a little bit overwhelmed at work, I like to do something called the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. And I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but it works great with students too. But you just take a little break and take an inventory of your senses, and you think of 5 things, or 5 things you can see. Then 4 things you can feel. So it can be your hair, it can be the desk, it can be your keyboard, it can be your feet on the floor. Then 3 things that you can hear. So right now I can hear my husband making more coffee downstairs, the buzz of the lights. Then I go to smell, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. And it really helps you be aware of your surroundings and brings you into the present. And so I think mindfulness is key to keeping your sanity.
That's great, and especially to use it with students. They can learn the 5 senses. We just recently did a discovery lesson on that, 5 senses. That would be a good way to introduce that type of activity. Awesome, thank you. At ESL Library, we have this really fun thing that we do. We've been doing it all through COVID. It's called Donut Chats. And so we use this app called Donut, I think it's called that. And we just get set up with different people from our company every couple of weeks. It just automatically sets us up with somebody random from the company. So it might be a developer, a designer, an illustrator. Often it's someone that you just haven't, they might not be on your team. And there's one rule, don't talk about work. So we just get to know each other, and I really love it. I've learned so much about our own staff, and we've really grown in the last couple of years. So it's just a great way to get to know each other when we can't be in person. So that's one thing that we do at our company. And we also get our birthdays off, which is a great way to recharge. Okay, another thing that we do at ESL Library is we take a break from making, and that helps us learn and grow. We love to go to conferences. That's really where we get all the juicy ideas from all of you guys. At the 2021 TESOL conference, which we were sad was not in person, but we still got a lot out of it. I attended a session by Katie Welch, and she spoke about gamification. It really helped inspire me, gave me so many ideas, and was able to bring them back to the team. But one thing I just loved about her was just her presentation techniques. I thought, her presentation looked so good, and she just made you feel comfortable in her session. And when we were planning this session, I asked our organizers to reach out to her because I thought, she probably would be great to have here. And so we're so happy she came, and she actually asked us to talk about social emotional learning. And that just really helped us start doing our research, because we get a lot of requests for materials about social emotional learning. It's kind of the hot topic right now. And so we've been doing a lot of digging and figuring out what kind of materials we have on our site. And turns out we have a lot of materials on our site already, but we're thinking about it more. So Katie has a lot to do with that. So I'm going to turn this over to Anne. She has some questions for you guys, and hoping that you guys can chat about it with us. And we also have some ideas and materials to share.
Yeah, we would love to hear your ideas. Well, first of all, when you think of social emotional learning, what do you think of? What is it? If you want to answer in the chat, we would love to see how you feel what this is. Any responses?
Awesome. And Tanya, maybe you can share our social emotional learning collection while we chat about it.
How you feel, yes. Well, how we describe it in our collection is as an important component of education, especially for newcomers who have the added stress of learning a language in new schools and communities. Managing emotions, building relationships, setting goals, and utilizing community resources are just a few key elements of SEL. So it's all about building relationships, managing emotions, how you think about yourself. I see that Mark in the chat has said, yeah. And actually we have used the organization called the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning, also known as CASEL, their core competencies to divide our collection. We have self-awareness, we have self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and decision-making as the core competencies for this collection. And we have divided our material into that. One thing that we do is we have our Washington Post section, and we were going through our Washington Post section and found a lot of categories that this fit into. Some of our Washington Post lessons that we have been able to fit into this collection, mental health and climate change is a big one. We also had during the Olympics, we had Simone Biles protects her health. We had Olympic knitting. A swimmer used knitting during breaks to manage his social and emotional health. Pandemic puppies, how they deal with the anxiety of the pandemic being over and their worker, well, not over, but that their owners are now going back to work, and even puppies have anxiety. So we are finding lots of ways to put our materials into this collection, and we hope that you are using it.
Yeah, we're definitely looking for topics now specifically related to it, which is, really, it's nice to know which kinds of trends are happening, and we know what teachers are looking for. So now that this is kind of more on our radar, we're specifically looking for materials, especially in our English with the Washington Post. I'm glad you mentioned that climate change one. I hope you all get a chance to watch or try this lesson, maybe just preview it. There is a great video in there just about how climate change is, really important, but it causes a lot of, concern, anxiety, and a lot of people end up just not doing anything because they just are so worried about it. There's some great tips in there and just about trying to keep it optimistic, which you don't hear a lot of optimism related to climate change. So yeah, is there anything here in the chat that we maybe want to bring up? Mark was asking how to find it. Tanya, do you want to show exactly how to find this?
Sure. Yep. So if you go into our materials drop down once you're logged in, you can go to collections. It's the second one down in the drop down. And then you can go down to academic subjects here. This is where we've put our social emotional learning collection. So then if you scroll down in the academic subjects, you will find it at the bottom here because it's our newest one. Click into that, and then you'll get to this page with all the categories, and you can filter by level, audience, materials type, and by category.
Thank you. Yeah, we actually originally had this in our health collection, but we moved it out into its own collection because there was so much materials, but also because of a session we went to a few weeks ago about social emotional learning. Some of the experts were reminding us that it shouldn't really be separated from academic subjects. Social emotional learning isn't something to just do once a day or once a week or something. It should be, part of your curriculum. So we totally agreed with that and decided to move that into our academic section. All right. Is there anything else here? We could take some questions at the end, but maybe Tanya, do you want to ask our second question?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Okay. So my next question is, what social emotional learning strategies do you use in your classroom? And I see that someone already responded here when we were just asking about SEL in general. So Margaret Bentley said she does a critical thinking session every Friday where students share a reflection with no comment or discussion from others. That's really interesting. Nice. If anyone else has some.
Yeah, that self-reflection was kind of the first thing that we did, I think, at ESL Library when we were just kind of first getting into SEL a few years ago. We started adding a few resources like exit slips or reflections into our assessment area there. That was kind of our beginning steps into this, and they've been really popular.
Yeah, we have under materials, if you go down to resources and you go into assessment tools, you'll find a lot of things that you can use in your classroom for this. As Tara was mentioning, student reflection, there's also goal setting, There's autobiographies as well. So in the student portfolio section, different levels of guided autobiographies. So you can get to know each other. And then the reflections, there's a 3-2-1 reflection, an exit slips, a wrap up, weekly reflection, monthly reflection. So lots of stuff you can do here. And maybe if Tara, if you see anything else in the chat, you can mention it just while I show the exit slips here.
Yeah, sure. I was going to say you might want to show the autobiography beginner as well. We have some visuals in there, so that might be a fun one to also show.
Okay, sounds good.
We do have some things in the chat. Michelle has brain health workshops that were really popular and had presenters come into our classroom. I think that's great.
That's amazing.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, very good idea to get some professionals in there to talk to students and share their insights.
Yeah, I would love my yoga instructor who is just a friend in the neighborhood who, you know, offered to help teach us all yoga. It's really changed my after work life. I would love for her to be able to just go into some of your language classrooms. And I just think it's so nice to get that mind and body stretch after work.
I would like to know if anyone uses movement breaks in their classrooms. Has anyone tried that? We have some movement breaks in some of our lessons, and I'd just love to hear feedback if your students do that.
Yeah, so important.
I think there's an example of movement break here in our cruise ships discussion starter lesson. It's here. Yeah. So you stand up and cheer for whichever one you vote for. And we have one actually in our yoga sports and leisure lesson as well. And they actually can do some of the poses here. You can guess the pose as well from the diagram, and then it guides you to do a pose. So kind of a nice way to stretch during class.
I see Kiki says she would sing and dance with her kids. We know Kiki, she's going to actually help us out at ESL Library and do some voiceover for us. And she has a great voice and a lot of energy. So I would love for her to be my teacher. I think she would definitely help out with social emotional health.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Great.
Sometimes it's a little bit hard for adults to, sometimes your adult learners might be more hesitant to get up and move around, but once you get them to do it and into the practice, you can feel the energy level of the class just go way up.
Mm-hmm. How about inclusion practices? Tanya, do you have any thoughts on inclusion?
Yeah, we have some blog posts. I attended an editing conference called ACES, their American Editing Society, and they had some great insights into inclusive practices, and I think it really applies to ESL or our classrooms as well. So we have so many different cultures. Yeah, we just really need to be mindful about being inclusive. So I shared it in the chat there, and there's just some inclusive language tips. You know, what to say, what not to say. It changes so often that it's good to keep up to date with it. And yeah, it's just a nice way of making everyone comfortable, right? And included. So
nice. Yeah. Mark has a question there. I don't know if our moderators could maybe put that one up so everyone can see it. I'm not sure if they can do that or not, if he asked it.
Stop sharing. Let me just stop sharing here. And then
sure.
There it is.
So there we go. Do you want to read that one out, Tanya?
Yeah. How do I create a space for students to talk about how they're feeling without violating their privacy? They confide in me, but that doesn't mean I can put that out to the group.
That's a great question. Yeah. Does anybody have any thoughts on that, or anybody in our chat want to answer that? So Tanya, Ann, and I are not really social emotional health experts, but we're just learning along with all of you, and we're really looking forward to Katie's session today. But that's just a really good question, and maybe something that we can ask Katie about as well. Does anybody have any thoughts on that? Oh, we have Cassandra here. Yay.
She gave us lots of tips yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. So she says, I think check to see what your school's policies are with your students. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're teaching kids versus adults, that's all going to, be different as well. So That's definitely something. I know when you teach adults, they'll tell you, a lot of them want to tell you everything. You kind of become their psychiatrist as well, right? And that's kind of something I actually love about teaching English, is that they believe in you, right? You're kind of their everything to them, and you know, they feel comfortable talking with you in English. And so definitely you don't want to be sharing anything without talking with them first. But I do find that in a lot of ESL classes, people are just really comfortable with each other, and it becomes kind of their best friends, especially in, you know, if they're coming to Canada or the US and they don't have a close-knit group already, it becomes family almost to them. So maybe it's a good idea to have a conversation at the beginning of your class and just find out how comfortable students are with that kind of thing.
Kiki had a great idea. She has a thought jar.
Oh,
so students can express how they feel, and you're the only one who sees it. But it's a way for them to get their thoughts out. I
love that. Yeah, we have a happiness jar here at home, and we just sometimes write things down and just throw them in there. And then sometimes, like, I open it up years later and I look and I'm like, oh, you know, when the kids were really little and they were writing things and they couldn't even write that well. But yeah, they don't do it as much now that they're teenagers. But yeah, that happiness jar. Someone knocked it off the shelf the other day and it cracked, and I was like, oh no, we need more happiness in this house. But yeah, I think it's fun to have in a classroom too.
And someone did mention, let's see, V mentioned that you need to set boundaries. So I think that's an important thing to keep in mind.
All right. Yeah, that is really important. And do you have another question that we can ask?
Sure. What games do people play in classes? Games are a great way to have students relax and feel comfortable using the language. Does anyone have any games that they would like to share?
Yeah, maybe while we're waiting, I'll just say, I always loved playing hot seat with my students. I found that, you know, when they were down or low, it was just a great way to bring more energy to the class. So for hot seat, if you're not aware, you just put two students at the front of your class facing away from the board, and then you put a word on the board. Could be something from the theme that you're working on, or it could be something totally unrelated, like pop culture or something. And then each team sits in front of the one person, and they have to try to get the person in the hot seat to say the word. So there's just a lot of yelling and shouting and standing up and using gestures. They can't say that word or any form of that word. And then whoever is the first of those two students to guess the word right gets a point for their team. It's always really loud. Sometimes you got to make sure the other classes that are in the same school aren't, you know, taking a test or something. But that was just a really fun game that, you know, brings some energy back to your classroom. What else have we got here?
We've got
lots of ideas in the chat.
Lots of apps like Kahoot and Quizlet. Those are great apps. Yeah, there's lots of ideas like scavenger hunts, tic-tac-toe. So lots of ideas that games people know already, so they can just adapt them to whatever they're teaching and learning. Nice. I Spy, Simon Says. Yeah, those are all great.
Bamboozle?
What's Bamboozle? Kenna, can you tell us maybe in the chat?
I think I've heard of it. It's maybe a app, but I'm not sure.
Is it an app, or yeah, I'm not sure what it is, but it sounds super fun. It sounds like something Ellii would want to tell us about. I hope you guys all loved Ellii. She definitely brought a lot of energy to the conference yesterday. That was great for our social emotional health, I thought.
Yeah.
Bringing that up.
It's an app, she said.
It is an app. Okay, well, we'll definitely look that one up.
Free for the basic version. That's good. Yeah, we'll have to check it out.
Yeah, sounds like something we might want to blog about maybe. So
yeah.
All right. Can we share our poll results? I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think. Let's see. Yep, I can show them on the stage. So here we go.
Okay.
Coffee wins the day.
Oh, I wasn't scrolling down. Coffee? Huh. Yeah. I don't see the results though. Do you guys see the results?
Oh. It's on stage for me, but is it not?
No, it's not on for us.
What's there? You don't see it? It's coffee got about 48%. People are still voting right now, though. So 49% got 30%.
Cool. Well, coffee is the winner.
Yep.
Don't forget to drink your coffee. Awesome. So we just have one word of wisdom that we kind of want to share at the end before we head into the next session. Tanya, do you want to put up our little closing here?
I will.
Thank you for all for coming to our little coffee chat this morning. I'm sure you have tons of ideas that you can share throughout the conference. Let's keep social and emotional health at the front of everything we do in this industry. And I hope you'll all come to Katie's session. It's on the schedule. And she'll be focusing on the 3 SEL practices that we tried to incorporate into our chat. So that's a welcoming activity, engaging strategies, and an optimistic closure. So our optimistic closure is you can't pour from an empty cup. Take care of yourself first, right? Just like you put your oxygen mask on, you know, when you're in an airplane, they tell you definitely, you know, look after yourself first, and then you look after your students as well.